Welcome back to the Land of Unpopular Opinions. It's been a long while, and I am here to film a tag, the first one, I think. It is a mid-year freakout tag that everyone's been doing, and I didn't really want to film this because I still have one final exam to do, but I've been growing very bored and sick of only doing studying. So, here we are to talk about the last chaotic 6 months and what we have read, and you will see some books repeated here, some books that I haven't really talked that much about, and hopefully this tag is fun to watch still, even though everyone is beating the shit out of it right now. So let's get into the video. Now the first question is best book you've read so far, and for this I don't have one, obviously, as no one ever does, but one that came to mind first, because I feel like I've been waiting ages to read it, is Lord of the Rings. And I loved this a lot. I was so depressed when I finished it that I had like a hangover for a week. This just has an effect on you. You want to be in that world and you don't want to leave, so it kind of kills you. But this was the best. It was awesome. I couldn't believe it took me that long to read it. And another one is obviously Winter Night, which I'm going to talk about in another question, but I just wanted to shout out Lord of the Rings because I couldn't believe it took me this long to read it, and it was the best thing that I read so far, even though it was written nearly a century ago. So if you haven't read this yet, just treat yourself. Treat yourself, because it is as good as everyone says, and if you like fantasy, you can't not have read this, so please do, because it is amazing, and it is incredible, and it will leave you in a hangover, such a book hangover, you're not even going to be able to think about other worlds for a little while. So Lord of the Rings, for sure. Now the next question is best sequel you've read so far this year, and this will surprise no one. Winter of the Witch, or the entire Winter Night trilogy. Honestly, I've never read ever a book series where the next book is so much better than the last one, but you loved the first one so much. So this was definitely a surprise. Sorry, someone just walked by and I'm not really used to talking in front of people yet. So, anyway. Best sequel ever, best conclusion ever, best continuation ever. This book was everything, absolutely everything I wanted and more. So this wins best sequel, hands down, and you can tell by the way I decimated it. I would never read this copy to someone. I would never give this copy to someone to read because, like, there's so many tabs that I would feel sorry for whoever had to go through this. But this book was everything. I won't talk about it anymore because I've already amped it up enough. But again, do yourself a favor, read this. You will have the best time, and you won't be disappointed by the next book. There is no middle book syndrome. There is no conclusion syndrome. This is just incredible throughout. So do yourself a favor. The next question is most anticipated release for the rest of the year and a new release you haven't read yet, and for that I don't have anything because I don't read new releases because they're usually expensive, and if I see hype and I'm interested in it, I will pick it up later when it's cheaper. And also, yeah, there's nothing I'm anticipating. I'm just still working through the backlog of books, so yeah, nothing here. I did buy The Cerulean, which is on the shelf now, and I realized I should have probably picked it up, but I bought that because it came, I'm not sure if it's new everywhere, and I've heard nobody talk about it, but it came out in my bookshop. That's probably the only new release that I'm going to be reading this year, so I guess I could count that for this question. The next one that could be potentially controversial is biggest disappointment so far. And the first and biggest, I have to say, will be Narnia, The Chronicles of Narnia. I buried that fucking book somewhere at the bottom of my shelf that's not even reachable, along with Sanderson. But no, I will not be talking about this book at this time because I'm still in my hangover, and no, I hated that with so much. I hated that so much, but we will not be talking about that book. I will not be bringing it out. No, absolutely not. If I had the heart to rip books and burn them, that would probably be the first in line. But the other two that I will talk about that are also pretty disappointing. The first one is Ahsoka. That's the first Star Wars novel that I actually didn't give 5 stars, and that was as disappointing as it could get. Didn't like this. It encompassed everything that I hate about Disney Star Wars, which is pretty much everything. So no, we didn't like that at all. And the second one will be obviously Lady of the Lake, which I despised. I despised this so much. But I think I read the series like incorrectly. I went into this expecting one thing and he just laughed in my face. So I think when I reread it, because the rest of the book are incredible, I love them a lot. Like, they're one of the best books I've ever read. But this, I think it's meant to be read very differently. I took him seriously, and you're not supposed to take him seriously because you will get hurt. But if you read it differently and you realize it's just a Polish guy taking the piss out of everything you expect to read in a fantasy, I do think you would enjoy this. But still, this was a terrible disappointment after how incredible the first few books were. Now that I look at it, I thought this was way more tabbed, but not really. There's not that many tabs. I see the blue ones, though, because there was plenty of those, but yeah, definitely one of the bigger disappointments. When I reread this, I wonder what I will think. Next question is biggest surprise this year, and that has to go to Wizard of Earthsea, although this is very difficult to hold up, so here we go. This is the best I can give you, but I was very surprised with this. I was hoping to like it, because I was like, oh, she has to be like the female Tolkien. She was loved in about the similar time, a little bit later, but she has to be very good, and she is. But I was surprised by how good she was. The beginning was rough, and I kind of had trouble getting into it because it like thrusts you into a world with so many strange names and concepts. But when you do get into it, you don't want to leave. You can tell she really cares about the world, and she knows it like the back of her hand, and you really want to follow her in there and just explore all of the islands, talk to all of the characters, learn the magic if you're lucky enough to have magic. But I want to hang out with Jed, or Ged, and Vetch, and Agian. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce those names, but I want to go here. And I can't wait to read the next book in this series, so I was very, very surprised by how much I loved this, but I am glad that I did, because apparently this is a year for classic fantasy, and it's the freaking best. So read it and get past the beginning, because believe me, it's rough, but when you get in, you just, yeah, no. When you get in, you're not getting out. I'm sorry. The next question is new favorite author or new to you, but I don't want to repeat myself, so Catherine Arden. I'm going to read anything that you come out with because I love you. And obviously Ursula Le Guin. And a newfound appreciation for Tolkien because, I mean, I only watched the movies as a kid. That's a whole other story. But yeah, definitely. I love you all. I love you all so much with all my heart. But moving on, because this is, I just keep repeating myself. So the next question is rereads you did this year. And I somehow have trouble remembering, but let's see if I can name them all. I reread Winter Night, even though I read it for the first time in March. I reread it in May. I want to say May. Loved it. It was everything. Also, April. I think it might be April. Yeah. Anyway, I reread Winter Night this year. I reread the Hobbit graphic novel when I was doing my Tolkienathon, and I reread Harry Potter. I finished the reread this year. Actually, I think I read book 765 in 2020. I think 4 might have been in 2019, but definitely reread the last couple, which are my favorites this year. So that was an excellent reread. And was there anything else that I reread? I don't think so. I finished Wheel of Time, but that wasn't a reread. I'm just looking at my shelves real quick. I think that was it. Oh, right. Yeah, I just saw my shelves. I reread Saga as well when I bought the compendium, so That was also a reread, and I think that's it for this question. So I think that's it. If I forgot something, I apologize for the misinformation, but I love rereads. I do them every year, and they're the best. I have a couple in mind that I'm going to do soon, but I'm getting off topic now, so I'm sorry. New fictional crush. I have a word to say about this because people in tags that I watch are always like, I don't have fictional crushes, which is strange that everyone I watch is like this. But I do have fictional crushes. Like, I have a couple of them that are like eternal. I will love them until the end of time. And I genuinely can't imagine myself with them, and I might have written a headcanon for myself. But that is besides the point. But not all favorite books have crushes. Like, I love a lot of the characters in Wheel of Time, but I don't have a crush on any of them. I just, like, love them. I want them to be my friends or my family, and I love them, but I don't have a crush on any of them. But there is one that I'm pretty sure is a crush. Not as strong as some of the other ones that I've had, but yeah, it's a crush. I mean, Morozko. Who are we kidding? I mean, it's the typical pale, black-haired, blue-eyed guy, which is apparently everyone's type. It is also very much my type. But personality-wise, I freaking love him. God of Death. I love him. He is definitely a new crush. I am not sure if anyone else would count, but he's the only one that comes to mind, so I guess he's the only one that counts. But yeah, definitely new favorite fictional crush. I love him. Join the hall of blue-eyed, black-haired, pale, pasty, angsty guys. Just join the Hall of Fame, and that is it. I love you. Now for new favorite character. Here we have, again, a lot of repeating to do, but I have to shout them out. Vasya, obviously, from the same series as the previous question. She might be one of my new favorite protagonists of all time. Pardon. Oh, the allergies are really kicking me in the butt when it's this hot. Right. Vasya, I love her. She's one of the best, probably, female characters ever. Almost ever. There are a couple of others. I mean, who else is a favorite new character? I was thinking of Wheel of Time, but those are definitely not new characters. I've been reading that for years. Definitely Faramir from Lord of the Rings. I love him with all my heart. Because of the movies, he was never my favorite, but I love him so much in the book, and he was done such a disservice in the movies, and that's a disgrace. But again, I will talk about the movies on another occasion. But I love him so freaking much. And I'm looking at my list. I'm sorry, because I have terrible memory when it's hot. Jed, obviously, Jed and Vetch from Earthsea. They're new favorites. I adore Jed. He is the best. And is there anyone else who's new? Not really. I think everyone else is just an old favorite. Or maybe I'm just not remembering anything. I mean, I feel like these 6 months have been a year and not 6 months. So I might not be even remembering a book that I read like in February. Which wouldn't be really all that surprising. But these are all that come to mind. They are definitely new favorites. And Lord of the Rings, actually, yeah, a lot of them are new favorites because the movie is atrocious. But I love the book. I love the characters in the book so much. I feel like I love all of them. There's not a character that you don't like in the books. Except for, like, maybe, obviously, Wormtongue. No. Yeah, Wormtongue and... Wormtongue? Wait a minute. No. Grima, anyway, and Saruman. But, yeah, they're not even that prominent, so you love everyone else. But now I'm rambling, so yeah. Those are the new favorites. A book that last made you cry. Now, if you don't know me yet, and I don't think you do because I haven't uploaded the vlog yet. I might have uploaded before this, so ignore me if this is incorrect. But I cry at books a lot. I cry in general a lot at movies, sometimes at songs, but mostly songs combined with movies and books. I cry a lot and easily, and that is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of if you're like me. So please let me know if you're like me, because I feel like no one cries anymore. But I cry all the time. And I cried like a child at Memory of Light. I cried so much that it was embarrassing. I cried at the end of Narnia, which I said I wouldn't talk about, but I did because I was pissed off. I cried. I definitely cried at the end of Winter Night. A lot. Like, a lot. I just burst into tears, and they were tears of joy, which never happens, but I'm holding up this now because that's the only one I haven't held up yet. I'm not even sure if I cried at this one, but no, I did the rest of them. I cried in book 13. I cried in book 12. I cried a lot for Wheel of Time. Anyway, we have established this already. But yeah, I cry a lot at books. I cried at Lady of the Lake. I remember now. I cried at Harry Potter. I cried at the end of Lord of the Rings only because I was very emotional, and I remembered I just watched the Hobbit movies before I read Lord of the Rings. That was my Tolkien-a-thon, and I cried at the end of that trilogy, and then I cried when it was referenced at the end of Lord of the Rings, and I just cried at the end of Lord of the Rings because I was so depressed that I wasn't there anymore. I cry at books a lot anyway, so this is like a tangent. But the last one I cried, I think, was Narnia, which I don't want to count because I don't even want to think about that book anymore. So the last one might actually be Memory of Light. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I cry at books a lot. It is not that surprising. Anything can get me. But if you get me to cry of joy, which Wheel of Time and Winter Night managed to do, then congratulations, because that happens rarely. I often cry when I'm pissed off or hurt or just not a fan. But if I cry of joy and of sadness, you've hit the golden spot, and you're probably one of my favorites. So yeah. Oh, I also cried at Star Wars. Yeah. I just remembered. I cry at Star Wars all the time. I cried at Rise of Darth Vader. I cried at the epilogue. Yeah, that was definitely a thing. But if you've already seen the Memory of Light vlog, my condolences, because you have to see me just weep all the time. Anywho, yeah, I'm sorry. Definitely cried at books this year. The last question is favorite adaptation, which I love because I'm going to eventually probably make a movie about TV shows and movies because I love talking about them almost as much as books. But I like this question a lot. So, let's go in order. I watched the Hobbit movies before I started my Tolkien-a-thon, and then I read the Hobbit graphic novel, and I love the Hobbit movies so much. They have their flaws, obviously, and they're way too long and stuff, but the extended editions kill you. Just kill you. And yeah, I wept. I wept so hard at the end of the third movie at the extended edition. You know why? I love those movies. That is definitely my favorite adaptation because the Hobbit book is just unreadable. You can't. It's very actually like C.S. Lewis. It has an excellent idea, but it's written in a way that you feel like only children could enjoy the writing style because it's told to you and nothing is shown. It's too quick. There's barely a plot, and there's no emotion. Nothing is emotional in the books. You're just told how characters are feeling, but you don't feel it. I couldn't even finish the book. That's why I read the graphic novel. But the movies actually turn it into something emotional, and they make you care, and I love movies that improve upon the book. There's few of them, but The Hobbit is definitely one of them. No one will agree with me, and I'm fine with that. But I love the Hobbit movies so much, and definitely an improvement. And the next one was Harry Potter, which obviously wasn't an improvement on the book, but it's an excellent adaptation. We rewatched it because I went to a quiz about the Harry Potter movies. We didn't really win because it was a stupid quiz, but that's besides the point. But we rewatched it, and like the first couple of them are just dreadful, but as soon as David Yates takes over, which is basically from like 5 to the end, they're the best. Full of emotion, and the music is wonderful. They look wonderful. The actors have become incredible, and I love the Harry Potter movies so much. The last few, I love them. I remember going to the cinema with my parents, and I loved them so much. They were a big part of my childhood and part of my love for Harry Potter. So I think I was like 10 when the last one came out, but I loved it so much. I love those movies. And the last one, which I watched like a week ago, was the Narnia movies, which were essentially my childhood. I just said Harry Potter was a big part, but these were my childhood. I rewatched them so many times. I loved them. Apparently, we watched the second one in theaters, which I didn't know, but wow. And I love them. I love them so much. Like, I have so much love for those characters and the actors, obviously, because they're my characters at this point, and I have such love for those movies. I love them to bits. I love everything about them. I don't have any flaws with them. there are some that I can acknowledge, but no, I have no qualms with it. But just the music just makes my heart soar, and the movies are beautiful, and the characters are beautiful. And then I read the book, and then I was pissed off that I read the book, and I wanted to stay in beautiful bliss that these movies weren't based on anything. But they were definitely an improvement. They added emotion to characters that had none. They added development where he didn't offer any. And those movies were something. I wish I didn't read the books ever, because I would have been fine. But the only thing I hate about the movies is their endings, which is unfortunately something that is actually Lewis's, and I can't pretend that it's not. But if I just pause the movie before the ending, then I will be fine. But yes, I loved those movies. They were definitely one of my favorite adaptations. Now I'm talking too long about this, but I'm still post-Narnia hangover, and they definitely stood the test of time. My favorite childhood movies are actually one of my favorite movies now at this point. Some of the best fantasy, and I freaking love them. Don't read the books. Just don't. That concludes this very, very long, because I started rambling, mid-year book Freakout tag. And I hope that you somewhat enjoyed, and I hope that you don't bash me in the comments, because, as I said, this is the realm of unpopular opinions, so you should expect that there will be some hot tea spilled on this channel. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you subscribe if you feel like it, because now that my final exam is finishing, I'm going to be posting a lot more, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I will finally figure out how to freaking edit in photos and words into that stupid free video editing software that I got, because I'm not paying it, because that would be pointless when you're just starting out. But let's hope that I figured it out, and I will continue to improve, that's for sure. But in any case,